Hello, welcome. I'm Josh Schimmels, publisher and CEO of the Los Angeles Business Journal's Inside the Valley magazine. It's a privilege to be here today hosting our Valley Small Business Advisory Roundtable discussion. Well, as we know, the greater San Fernando Valley and the surrounding region, they're homes to dynamic and diverse small business communities. From shifting consumer trends and emerging technologies, all the way through changing regulatory and financial landscapes, small business leaders are navigating an entire marketplace that depends on and demands really adaptability, innovation, and constant collaboration. Despite all of these challenges, entrepreneurs and small business owners continue to lead with vision and with resilience. They're driving growth, they're creating jobs, and they're contributing to the vitality of our local economy. Today's conversation is going to explore a wide range of topics. We're going to cover everything from financial planning and operational efficiency to partnerships and networking. We're going to talk about long-term growth strategies for business. I'm really excited because we are joined by an esteemed panel of experts who are going to be sharing how their organizations are supporting small businesses. We're going to take a look at some trends that they're seeing with their clients and what they're focused on. And then we're also going to take a look at strategies that they believe can help small businesses thrive throughout all of our valleys and throughout the region. Before we jump in, I'd like to extend a special thank you to our partners for helping make this possible. Thank you so much to BFC, Citron Cooperman, Hiller Enterprise Taxes and Investments, and Keystone Advanced Solutions. Thank you all. We really do appreciate your support, not just of this program today, but of our entire small business community. Okay, I have the honor and the privilege of moderating today's discussion, and I'm here with several experts. So let me introduce them, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm welcoming first Joe Gubick, partner, Citron Cooperman; Michael Hiller, president, Hiller Enterprise Taxes and Investments; Lee Kleinman, senior vice president with BFC; and Chris McMorrin, principal, Keystone Advanced Solutions; and finally, Mayor Nikki Perez with the city of Burbank. Welcome. Thank you all for investing the time today and obviously in your preparation to be here. All right, let's get started. I'm going to address this first question to the entire group, okay? I'm looking for a response from each of you. Joe, we'll start with you. And it's a broad question, so you can answer it however makes sense for you and your clients and your expertise. Looking at the Valley region today, okay, what's a trend or an opportunity that you see really shaping the future for small businesses? Joe, what are your thoughts?
Hey, thanks, Josh. 25 has been somewhat of a different year, right? A little bit up and down. And so the way I look at it is there's an opportunity for talent acquisition. So if your business has been looking to upgrade or potentially add on to your existing team, I think there's a little bit of talent on the sidelines that you can pick up with right now and do some really good for your business. So softer labor market allows for more people on the sidelines. I think that's a good opportunity. If you're able to capitalize on it, I would look at talent acquisition at this current time.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think we're starting to see some changes and shifts in the market conditions. So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that as well. Michael, what are your thoughts? Opportunities, trends, what are you thinking? Michael, you may still be on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
We're seeing a lot of change in the technology market. Since 2020, we've seen a lot of adaptability. Before that, there was programs that were not being so utilized, such as Google Plus. Now we're using Zooms. A lot of switches in the QuickBooks desktop to now QuickBooks Online. And we can have teams all over the world now, from India, Sri Lanka, Philippines, you name it, all be interacted and lower overhead costs in many different regions.
Thank you so much, Michael. Lee, from your perspective. Lee, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Josh. I would just say that the San Fernando Valley is an excellent locale for small business owners to operate. There's a diverse economy comprised of entertainment, tech, aerospace industries. Housing for employees could be more affordable than in other parts of Los Angeles City or county. And it just seems to be doing very well these days.
Yeah, we're hearing in particular, I would say after first quarter this year, we're hearing a lot of strength in the market in many different sectors. And that's something we'll get into a little bit more later on. Thank you for your thoughts on that. Chris.
Yeah, great question, Josh. It seems like every year we have some type of unprecedented event that's, affecting small business and everything. I would say navigating with clarity and understanding your financials. In some aspects, it's a great opportunity in the valley and everything, but it's not for the faint of heart. Navigating high interest rates, making business changes on a gut decision or a hunch and everything is going to leave a lot of challenges out there for small businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Sometimes small businesses don't have the access to the same resources when it comes to understanding their financials, which can be both, your financials are both a liability and an asset to your company and an opportunity. So understanding how they can work for you, extremely important. Thank you for that. And wrapping up on the first question, Mayor Perez, what are your thoughts?
So to kind of bring in, I know I bring the government perspective into all of this. From us at a macro lens, what we're seeing in opportunities and changes in the market is really, I have to speak from Burbank, right? The entertainment sector is changing. We are doing everything we can, working with our state and federal partners to keep entertainment here in the city of Burbank and, of course, in the Los Angeles region at large. But we are seeing a lot of influence in things like AI and things like video game development. And so we think that's an opportunity right now for businesses that are interested in switching into these new technologies. Those businesses are ripe for opportunity, and we welcome folks who want to work in that field in Burbank.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not just the city of Burbank, it's not just the LA region, it's the entire state is doing a lot to try to keep the business, keep filming, keep entertainment here. We saw earlier this year the opening of a brand new production studio for the Valley. I think it was the first time in almost 20 years that we've seen that expansion, which is great to see. All right, so Joe, I'm gonna kind of pivot over to you. In what I'm gonna call and refer to as an evolving, constantly evolving, in particular the last four years, and this year's no different, an evolving local and regional marketplace. What advice would you give to small businesses in the valleys that in order for them to adapt and really stay competitive?
Hey, thanks, Josh. That's a great question. Business owners are always wearing multiple hats, right? So I would say a clearly defined strategy, preferably written down. And while the strategy can contain multiple components, everything you need to survive, I think there's four things that I'd like to talk about today. One, relationships, investment, feedback, and market trends. From my perspective, relationships are pretty much everything that you need to survive, right? Those relationships that you work on will relate to customers, your vendors, and your team members. And by treating those relationships and nurturing those relationships throughout time, you're going to get a very good return on your investment of time with those relationships. And there's going to be a lot of information that you gather from those things that relate to your business and how to react, how to implement certain ideas, and how to proceed operationally. The other section, number two, I've talked about or want to talk about is investment. And investment can take on a whole lot of different areas. And so managing how you're going to create your investment in relationships is one thing. There's technology, there's different products, there's different types of services that you can invest in. So really thinking thoughtfully of what that looks like. And investment's going to be tied to market trends, which we'll talk right after the feedback. But next is feedback. If you're soliciting continuously feedback from your customers, your vendors, and your team members, you'll understand what's going on within your business, right? You're going to know how to pivot and how to adapt. Am I just overpriced or am I underpriced? How to get all those things. If you don't have the feedback and if you don't have the relationships, then you're not getting the right information that you need to survive and adapt and pivot. And last, I'm going to go with market trends. Market trends, when you're talking to people, you're able to see that, a little bit of a preview of what's happening to others. And it's not about, commiserating in pain or commiserating in glory. It's more of, okay, am I in the right spot? Are my investments in the right spot? Do I have the right relationships in place? Am I asking the right questions for feedback so that I can stay competitive today and in the future? Those are the 4 points. I just leave that with you: relationships, investment, feedback, and market trends.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic. As you talk about relationships, I immediately went to both internal and external relationships. We've got our internal relationships that we need to nurture. These are our team members, our colleagues, the people that we work internally with. We've got our external relationships with our clients, and then our vendors. Okay, there's a whole nother group that aren't clients, but they're vendors and partners who help us do our jobs more efficiently. Those are all extremely important. I want to build on this a little bit. Michael, I'm going to go to you on that. What are some practical steps that you can talk about that help small businesses? It's something they can do early on. Okay, we talked about finances that help small businesses manage their finances efficiently, and that also kind of helps support sustainable growth. That's so important.
Absolutely. One of the things we pride ourselves with Hiller Enterprise is focusing on startups and small business. We focus with the millennial and the next generation crowd. And, when they come in, one of the things that I get all the time is I didn't learn this in high school. I didn't learn this in college all the time. And, where do I start, Michael? And the starting is going to a professional. Really look for someone you can find a good relationship with, someone who works with you and against, because you're not always right and it's not always wrong, but you got to get the best team available. And once you get that stability of finding those, everything comes into place. Organization is a key component. A number of times they come in and it's an Excel sheet. And, with the times today, as I mentioned, QuickBooks Online, you can have access anywhere to your profit and loss and your balance sheet reports and really find where are we spending money? Where can we correct? Do we need this? Do we need that? But the team that we surround ourselves, from going to formations, bookkeeping, payroll, to outsources into social media, all these are costly expenses, but they are, as we said, many hats. But as the business, from a startup stage to a small business to more and more growth, it just requires a team, and a team that works 24/7. And I recommend a Type A team. And the best way to do it again is start with an accountant.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. We hear so much every day and we write stories, and one of the common themes that we hear from business owners is the lifeline. In some cases, it's access to capital. Where's the money, right? So, Lee, I'm going to ask you from a lending perspective, how can businesses position themselves to be attractive, to make it so that banks and investors and community lenders and non-traditional lenders want to provide that access to capital? How can businesses do that? Because that's so important to their long-term success.
That's a great question, Josh. Several times a year, we are requested to finance a lending request, but the client's business is not deal ready. And what I mean by that is their books and records are not up to date from an interim financial statement perspective. And they also have their last year's tax return on extension. And this is typically done by businesses that haven't had a historical lending need. But you never know when that opportunity knocks on your door to acquire an asset such as equipment, or to own your own building or what have you, or to acquire a competitor's business. And sometimes these transactions have to be done quickly based on seller demands and requirements. And putting together an interim should be okay. That's done pretty quickly. But if someone's tax return is on extension and it's those year-end numbers that make the deal qualify, lenders are going to want to see those numbers memorialized within a filed federal tax return versus a P&L. So that could cause several months delay to get those returns filed. So I would say, even though you haven't had historical lending needs, keep your business books and records deal ready for that next opportunity that might be knocking on your door unexpectedly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lee. Perhaps you don't have the need now, but you don't know what opportunity is going to arise that would force you, excuse me, to have to look at different ways for growth. And that's a really great segue into the next question. Once you've got that foundation in place, okay, and you've got access to capital, you're starting to grow. Chris, I'm going to come to you on this. What are some cost-effective strategies to scale without overextending cash flow? What would you recommend?
Yeah, another great question. I want to kind of transition from what Michael said and then Lee as well, because there is this transition in the business life cycle. You start up, hopefully you get that foundation together. You got a good bookkeeper and everything. What we do at Keystone is really curate that back office for our clients, that anything from AR, AP, controller, managerial accounting, all the way up to CFO and kind of M&A advisory. I sit with Keystone, a completely different perspective than what I used to do in traditional commercial finance and everything. We would get the financials, the business owner would say, hey, I had a great year. Like Lee mentioned, the tax returns don't reflect that. Your debt service coverage is negative. We can't get you the access to capital. And then it kind of starts over again. And you say, come back, see me in December, and then hopefully we can get the financials in order to be able to give you access to capital and everything. So what we do is everything from investor ready financials, bank lendable financials, and that, kind of lender ready financials if we can. But a lot of times there's companies when, they're middle market size and you would think they have that infrastructure in place and they just don't, So I think preparing and getting ahead of challenges before they come up and being exit ready, regardless if it's, it means an exit in 6 months or liquidity need here in 6 to 12 months and everything, just being ready and getting ahead of those things before they're necessary. Because like Lee said, there's a lot of times it's end of year, the seller wants to move on, and you have limited time and you just can't go back in time and change things.
Yeah, I think there's, as you point out, there's financials and there's lender ready financials. So
Correct. Yeah.
the more nimble you can be to make a move quickly, the more prepared you are. It may be the difference between taking advantage of a short-term opportunity. So we talked a little bit about, relationships. Let's go back to people, because ultimately it's all about the people that we're surrounded by. Mayor Perez, from a city level view, what kind of external support, things like peer networks or development opportunities and other sorts of people oriented businesses and groups, what types of things can help entrepreneurs strengthen their leadership teams that can ultimately help scale sustainably? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Josh, and I'm glad you mentioned it. As I was listening to other folks talk about relationships and the way they connect, it just made me think of the ways we've supported a lot of our business community. Of course, we partner with our Chamber of Commerce, a lot of their mixers and events. We help bring folks to the table there to meet other entrepreneurs, other businesses. But internally, as a city, we host Burbank, what we call our Burbank Tech Talks. They are really for all folks in the tech sector, and we mean everywhere from if you're doing medical tech, which is going to be different from entertainment technology, which is going to be different from business tech. And so we bring very different sectors in our community together to the table. We also have our small business roundtables where we bring maybe a very seasoned small business owner, like, for example, the owner of Poquito Mas, who has quite a few different locations throughout the valley. to give a discourse to new business owners who are maybe opening their first coffee shop in the city and need some help and are overwhelmed. And we do that at that small scale and at the larger scale. We have folks from Warner Brothers, Disney, talking to folks who are coming into the industry with their editing company and making those connections, which I think are really, like folks have mentioned here, the backbone and the importance. So if I could give any advice to entrepreneurs, it would be don't sleep on your local government. They're going to be offering some of these talks, and I can tell you, we know we seem a little boring, but come on down because you don't know who you're gonna meet down there and make some great connections. And you'll also get to talk to the folks in your city's economic development department. And those connections are key the moment you want those permits, the moment you have an issue with water and power. So it's really important to stay connected there. Relationships are everything.
I agree. Thank you, Mayor. And I think, the key there is stay connected. That's one of the things that for several decades, the Business Journal, we always pride ourselves on connectivity. That is our primary goal in the market, is to keep people connected. It's interesting, we think about small businesses and how powerful and mighty they can be. There's a phrase that's always stood out to me in so many different respects, but it works in small businesses too. And it's the concept of you are the company you keep, right? So I think of small businesses and I think of collaboration. Collaboration is something that for a small business can really allow them to kind of punch above their weight, so to speak, right? Joe, on that note, how can owners leverage partnerships with other local businesses around them to really expand their reach and punch above their weight?
Yeah, I personally, I love collaboration. That's probably one of the most things that are near and dear to my heart. So I want to talk about three things on collaboration: networking, number one, joint marketing, and then cross-selling. Mayor Perez mentioned networking, chambers of commerce as an example. These are wonderful events to go and network with other businesses, other elected officials, other people in the community that you can have a good discussion with, gain some knowledge as to what's happening. Also develop relationships. We talked a little bit about that earlier. But also a big believer, networking is, like you mentioned, Josh, earlier, networking internally and externally is just as important, right? Getting to know what that information basis is and knowing who and how to partner with. If you don't have your network referral sources already established, go and get it. Takes a little bit of time, but just keep at it and be relentless with it. But I also look at collaboration and networking as a focus area of mine is to be generous. Be generous with your time and abilities and support and help other people. And in turn, you will get helped over time. It just takes a little bit of time. But if you get to be known as a person that is willing to help others in the community and in the business community, good things are going to happen your way and your business is going to succeed long term. And their network is going to flow into your joint marketing opportunities. Who doesn't want to stretch their marketing dollars or their operational dollars? We're all on a defined budget. So take a look at how you can develop a synergy or something similar with another group. Maybe it's another business. Maybe it's part of a chamber. Maybe it's other going into the LABJ events, different things like that, and how you can do something really good that will market your business and get you some identifiable recognition to get sales in the door. And lastly, I'll talk about cross-selling. Through your network referral sources and your relationships, you're going to be able to pinpoint where there's opportunities to do some cross-selling. We all don't provide everything to everyone. So there's opportunity to partner with other folks that have a particular niche that may complement your business. And it may be that your customers have a need and you know who to go to and you have a reliable source. So those three things. I love collaboration, but look at your networking, your joint marketing, and your cross-selling.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many business groups and industry groups and ways to expand our own network. Michael, same question to you from your perspective. What role can those local business groups and networks and industry associations play in helping small businesses thrive?
Absolutely, and well said, Joe. Just to add a little on to that, networking is key. Community is key. I wouldn't be in this position here with all of you if it wasn't for networking. I know there's different types of networking today. There's on the digital path. And to the viewers, I want to stretch that the ability today is so different than it was. It's not just handing a business card and going to a team referral, BNI, chambers, and just here's my card. It's effort. If you're going to take a card, go and send an email. I like to go on LinkedIn, whether it's after a Zoom, during a Zoom, during meetings, and add them to your network. If you're a student, take that time. You might meet a mentor, or you might have your next opportunity to get a job. How many times starting off, your network became that accessibility point where you got that opportunity because of that network. They have 150 resumes today just stacking, and you have to be the difference. And I don't only talk to the student, same with the professional. If you want to grow, what makes it, it's a value. Yeah, but what you want to do is plant the seed. You never know when a deal is an opportunity to come where you're like, hey, I got this great opportunity for you. Or it comes back in a referral. Number of times, I don't even go to rooms anymore because the opportunity of my network created so many referral sources. Every week, there's a new meeting, whether it's real estate or a new business, and you continue to make growth, but just stay at it. I remember in 2015, I went to 10 events a month. And you become skilled at it. Go meet 5 people and leave with 5 people. That's great. Quality always. Don't go for the numbers to try to meet the room and have a stack of business cards. Really make yourself stand out.
I think that's so interesting you say that. I remember, like so many other people earlier in my career, the concept and ideology of networking was how many business cards can I grab in a room? And as we evolve in our lives and careers, you realize it's more about connecting with purpose. I'd rather make one great connection with purpose and somebody that we may be able to collaborate on a project with than walk out with a stack of business cards that aren't particularly meaningful. So I'm glad that you shared that. We talked a little bit about keeping the books up to date and the financials, but we really were looking at that more from the standpoint of opportunities. Be ready for that next opportunity. Well, let's look at the other side of it. Okay. So, many businesses overlook risk until it's probably a little bit too late. So Lee, I want to ask you, respond to this, not from an opportunity standpoint, but how can maintaining those financials, those up-to-date books and internal controls kind of help reduce exposure to fraud, financial setbacks, and unnecessary risks?
Very good point, Josh. We all know business owners wear a lot of hats, and one of them also needs to be chief risk officer because, as you mentioned, businesses are at risk for internal embezzlement and external fraud. And putting my former banker hat on when I was a business banker at a money center bank, we saw firsthand how devastating that can be to the operation of a business. Some of those losses are reimbursable, some are not. It causes havoc to their operations and their cash flow. So I highly recommend every business owner consult with their business bank at least 1 to 2 times a year to make sure they're being educated and brought up to speed on all of the latest and greatest technology when it comes to cash management and treasury management tools that play a very big role in stopping and curtailing a lot of this internal embezzlement and external fraud. Examples are positive pay. So that's when the business owner sends to the bank daily a list of check numbers, amounts, payees, and the bank will only pay checks off of that approved list. Another one is ACH debit filters. A lot of fraud has to do with external folks trying to zap business funds using the ACH system. And there's ACH debit fraud filter controls in place that are offered by the banks. Dual controls is key. One employee should not be authorized to send wire transfers. There's technology that allows two people to be involved in that approval process. And then, of course, internally, as you mentioned, reconciling your account statements every month. The owner should be taking a look at the bank statements from time to time to make sure there's no checks being paid to unrecognized vendors or what have you. So the technology is there, and whether you're managed by a relationship manager locally or at a central call center, or you just do your banking and have your relationships at your local branch, speak to your bank, express concern about this risk, and working together with your financial institution should curtail or stop most of all of this fraud.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, there's so many different ways for us to take advantage of that.
Josh, if I could piggyback on that as well, I cannot stress the importance of having a relationship with your banker ahead of time before you need it. Any event of a fraud attempt or, potentially lost funds. But I think that is so important to have that relationship and have somebody to call that's not a 1-800 number. And then also some of the other things that we see, both from when I was in banking and now, is these business email compromises where, you'll get this urgent email that says, hey, you need to pay this by end of day. And then somebody doesn't want to get in trouble. And like Lee said, if you have, single user authority, one person can send 50, 100,000, $200,000 in just pure profit. And we've seen it cripple businesses if you don't have those internal controls and that banking relationship as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. All right, so we've got a little bit fewer than half of our questions remaining. I want to make sure we get to them all because we've got some really good questions still coming up. I'm going to ask the group to let's tighten our responses up just a little bit so we can try to get to them all here. It was interesting. Yesterday, I had lunch with the dean of the business college over at our very own CSUN, the Nazarian School. And one of the things we were talking about was data and analytics, and they actually just launched a brand new degree program that's not very popular, or it's not very, it's very popular, but it's not very, you don't see it at a lot of universities. And it's all about analytics and data and market trends. So, we know how big this is right now. It's growing, data, visibility, metrics, so important. Chris, I'm going to ask you, as from a business standpoint, how can business owners use data and simple metrics without getting, overly complicated? How can they use this stuff to make smarter financial and operational decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were kind of hitting on this, but having that connectivity of the data, oftentimes we'll take clients from a QuickBooks desktop or online into a full ERP system that allows your logistics, your sales, your accounting, your manufacturing to all talk to one another. And then you're not going into 50 different spreadsheets trying to get that data to connect and make sense and give you insight on how to make decisions and be agile. And with the advent of AI, enterprise large language models for companies that protect your data and allow you to extrapolate that so quickly now, you don't have to run all these reports and everything. So business owners are really empowered to take action with that data, and they don't have to spend a lot of time in it if they're using the right tools and resources.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Going back a little bit in our conversation, we've all sort of expressed the importance of collaboration on some level. So Mayor Perez, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because Burbank has been, at the center of fostering that collaboration from a city perspective. Can you share with us an example of a resource or city-led initiative that's helped local businesses thrive in that area?
Definitely, Josh. And I know we always say in our cities, we want to be business friendly, but what does that mean? And to us in Burbank, we have heard our businesses loud and clear. It's cutting the red tape, making permit processes faster. You all already have so much to deal with from what I've heard, Chris, Joseph, and Lee sharing today. There are so many financial details that you have to think about. Let's not make having to talk to each department in the city while you get your permits and it taking 8 months, another problem. So one of the things we do in the city of Burbank is we offer a business concierge service. It is your one-stop shop. It is one person that you go and talk to that helps you navigate that permit process. Let's go again with the coffee shop because I love my coffee, so that's my one example. If you're a small coffee shop, you're open in the storefront and you need your permits, you have to talk to fire, police, parks, because maybe you have a tree next to you. You have to talk to licensing. Maybe you want to serve alcohol. That's a whole other step. So what we do is with this one business concierge, she will help you navigate with each department. And if there's a snafu in the process, she will call you and you'll talk about it and figure out the next steps. And she'll tell you where to go, how to do it. And you have that one personal connection. Like Chris said, it's not a 1-800. You don't just call the city and hope to reach the fire department at some point. So we think that's been really important. We've had 15,000 interactions so far with that program, and we've heard it works. Just to give you one last example, had a small business that reached out earlier this year. They were in film production. They had studio equipment rentals, wanted to move from North Hollywood here into Burbank. They called me, had a talk with them, referred them to her. Within 6 months, they are now in the city of Burbank. She helped them find a storefront. So we're excited about that. We hope it expands across the valley, and it's one of our big prides and joy.
I appreciate that real life example and you sharing that with us. You know, we all understand the concept of revenue growth. We all understand, you know, income. Joe, are there other things that, you know, small businesses should be looking at? You know, maybe a more holistic way of measuring success. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, positive revenue growth is always good, right? But there's also some other things that factor into that. I take a look at a balanced scorecard. And on that scorecard, you can take a little bit more of a look at your satisfaction as one. Two, what kind of impact you are creating and having. And number three, what are the milestones? So let's talk a little bit about satisfaction. You really want to focus on your customer satisfaction. Again, we talked about this before. Customers, vendors, and team, make sure they are satisfied and find out how. That could be through customer surveys, or that also could just be through your relationships and discussions and networking, getting to know what the brand is doing out in the marketplace. And number two, what is the impact? And that impact is going to be measured as to each individual business owner and what they want to achieve, both in the business, for their team, succession planning, also into the community. And so when you have different types of impact strategies, you want your scorecard to reflect what it is that you're achieving and how close you are to those goals. And lastly, to talk about milestones. The milestones also, again, as part of your strategy, can affect a lot of different things that could be innovation, product development, and operational efficiencies as an example. But I would make sure that as part of your strategy, you're looking at these milestones, seeing if you're achieving them. Go back to your customer surveys and your feedback to make sure, hey, am I doing something right? Do it better and continue to spread it along. And if you're not doing something right, fix it up so that you can get there.
Yeah, milestones and scorecards so important. Let's expand on that a little bit, Michael. Maybe from a practical tax strategies or planning tips perspective, what in those areas can help small businesses save money and also operate more efficiently?
Absolutely. As we started in our conversation, we talked about organization and the key to profit and loss and balance sheets. And when we go into tax strategies, that is a key component. There's a number of clients that come in and we're doing cleanup jobs from a year, and that's not efficient. If we're going to talk strategies, especially now, tax planning is coming. We just finished tax season. We're going into tax planning. We're using the current changes in laws that are coming in, and we have to have the best. We learn from seminars and the profession. And when a client does come in to do what we need to do to save them money, and get them the best opportunities out there, we need to have all the facts organized. The cutoff date of October 31st. We want it to be clean, and then we can start doing our look into what's going on. Where can we do we need to up a salary? Do we need to use Section 179 and get a bonus depreciation? What can we do? And that streams from a lot of organization, keeping consistencies with the records and being able to do the tax planning for the next year. It's important. A lot of clients don't enjoy tax planning. But if you want to save on April 15th, you got to go in, you got to make that time, you got to be consistent with your bookkeeper, and answer the questions so we can, be efficient. Otherwise, just underpayment penalties, and that's when the quicksand starts to come up, because last minute they come on April 15th and you're telling them they owe $37,000, and now they're in an installment agreement, getting into more quicksand because they think the government's not going to do penalties and interest, but that's going to continue until it's paid off. So if you want to stop the bleeding, not have gouging wages, and not have your passport taken or anything, be consistent and, be timely. When 12/31 comes, you want to know your books are done and filing timely.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And speaking of timely, I want to get through. We've got just a few more questions. We're going to go into kind of a lightning round in our last few responses here. We've talked about teams. We've talked about relationships, both internal and external, and what a critical role they play in long-term sustainability and success of a business. Lee, I'm gonna have you go back to this because I do think it's important. We talked about networking and creating those networking external circles. Okay, what advice do you have for business owners looking to assemble the right, and I'm going to use external in this one, external team of partners to help guide their businesses forward?
Sure. So no one person can take care of all tasks, and it takes a teamwork to make the dream work. So what does all of that mean? It means that every small business owner should assemble a team of professionals around them to help them grow and prosper. Bankers, attorneys, insurance agents, what have you. It's important to have a great team to handle all the different tasks that come to the small business owner from day to day, or to have a professional there to talk about an acquisition or this or that. And a great place to start is to ask your personal friends or your business friends in your networks who they're using for their professionals. And it's just very important to have that team of professionals around you.
Yeah, it really is. We started the conversation talking a little bit about some of the challenges, between COVID and tariffs and wildfires and market challenges and changes in the administration. There's so many things that our business community has to constantly be balancing. Chris, is there a short response you can give us, or any advice you can give us on how do you balance that short-term need of sort of fight or flight survival mode with also the importance of long-term planning? How do you balance those two?
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate and stay on topic with what Lee said is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And the better the quality of that roundtable that you curate and that kind of community that you develop around you is really going to tell you how far you're going to go. So don't neglect that, and whether it's from a municipality standpoint, business owner, anything like that, invest in your community and your community will invest in you. I think we're all kind of products of that, investing in our network, our communities and everything. But a lot of businesses run their financials payroll to payroll, and they really don't look up too far ahead of that. So having a team in place that can help you, not only give you breathing room to manage that effectively, but also kind of prepare for the things that are coming up and are inevitable, whether that's, taxes, tariffs, AI, technology challenges and everything. Yeah, you have to have that team around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mayor Perez, I'm going to give you kind of the last word when it comes to networks and people. Do you have a piece of advice that you would give that's related to some of the local and city programs driving innovation and creating those business networks? Something that will also help long-term success for small businesses?
Definitely. And I think, again, staying in theme and first and foremost with connecting and networking, do not be afraid to reach out to your local mayor, to your local government. I know LA is a little different, but the smaller cities in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley, we all get our emails. So reach out to us. If people don't reach out with their issues as a small business, with their concerns and working with government with questions, then we don't know what the problem is. And that's how we create programs like the Business Concierge Program. We also have other amazing programs like the SCORE program, where you get one-on-one mentorship, and that's in partnership with the county. So folks who are interested in learning more can connect with us. And even outside of programs, just on a holistic level, if you reach out to me as a new business saying, I'm new to the city, do you know anybody that can help me? I know all of our long-term business owners. I'm happy to connect you with one of them. So I think, again, making sure you have those partnerships with your government folks, with your business folks in your area, with your chamber, and with folks like you guys at the Business Journal.
We appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. Use the resources available to all of you. All right, we are down to our final question. It is lightning time. One final word from each of you. Not one word. One final thought. If you could give one piece of advice to a small business today, a takeaway, one action that will help them strengthen their foundation, what should it be? Joe, let's start with you, not to put you on the spot.
No, appreciate it. I would go with branding. Be relentless at branding your business. It'll go far. That's my advice.
Great advice. Branding. Michael.
Invest in an accountant.
Invest in an account. Well said. All right. Lee.
Buy the foundation. Control your occupancy cost. Keep your employees happy by not having to relocate, and buy bigger than what you need, and slowly exit tenants as you need more space.
Excellent. Lee. I'm sorry, Chris.
Again, great question. I think the most important thing business owners can do is don't wait to get that financial team in place. A lot of companies, they start with an idea. No one ever says, "Hey, let's get a great CFO to help us." But then they try to get access to capital, try to get some funding via investors and everything, and that's when they find out they really need that financial wherewithal behind the company.
Well, I'll say if they're not saying that, they should. We just held our CFO of the Year awards, and we had 110 CFOs in the room. And I can tell you, there's a lot of businesses looking for those CFOs to help get those books in order and help with long-term strategies. All right, Mayor Perez, final words.
Open your business in Burbank. But in all seriousness, I would just say the theme of today is connect early, start early, whether it be your financial team, your mentors, the folks that you want to partner with in the community, start early and don't be afraid to do it, because I've found more often than not, businesses want to work with each other more than they want to work in silos. So definitely reach out early, businesses, government, and your financial team early.
Reach out early and often. Mayor Perez, Chris, Lee, Michael, Joe, I want to thank you for all of your insights today, and of course, your leadership that you continue to support and provide to small business throughout the region. These conversations that we have are incredibly important. You could argue now more than ever, as our local business community, as we've talked about, navigates changes, navigates challenges as well, and growth. We're grateful to have the opportunity to hear from all of you firsthand, and to our audience. Thanks for listening. This is an opportunity for you to learn from experts, an opportunity for you to take this, send it to friends, colleagues, and clients who also might learn from it. If you're like me, you've walked away from this conversation with some actionable ideas, some inspiration, and things that we can continue to talk about. So we look forward to hosting our next one soon. Until then, everybody, keep on innovating and keep collaborating and, of course, expand those networks. Thank you all so much.